Hey you guys, so I was thinking about making an actual YouTube video instead of the typical completely random smite clips I post, just to see what happens, just see how it feels, you know? So one thing I've always kind of been interested in and always really thought was thought-provoking was just covering any sort of kind of abstract concepts, anything that's really opinionated, and just talking about it and learning about what other people think about it. I've always really found that interesting, just to get differing perspectives, get new opinions and that kind of thing, because for all my experiences in life, there's only so much I can have, and even by the time I die, there's tons and tons of things I'm never gonna know, and other people are gonna know within turning 10 years old or something, you know? So that's why I always thought it was interesting. And something I wanted to talk about now is the concept of respect. So I want to go over what exactly respect was, and why do people have it? Why do people have it for each other? So to start off, respect, it probably has an actual definition or something, but definitions are stupid. I don't use that shit. I just go based on what I feel. But respect, to me, respect is understanding someone and being able to, I guess, almost admire whatever it is that they're doing or whatever it is that they feel. So what I mean by that is, I think when it comes to respect, putting yourself into someone else's shoes, you can do that and still not respect them. You can imagine going through something someone else went through, but you still can have the capacity to not have respect for them. So for example, plenty of evil war criminals or serial killers or whatever else, they most of them have gone through some pretty crazy shit. They've had terrible things happen to them. Plenty of serial killers have been raised by abusive parents or gone through all kinds of horrors. But with that being said, you don't have to have respect for them just because they went through hardships. And you can understand them. You can understand where they're coming from. You can understand why they did what they did. But that doesn't mean you have to respect it. And I think that applies to a smaller scale too. Because from my perspective, I can understand a lot of people, but there are also a lot of things that I don't respect. There's just a lot of mentalities and a lot of thought processes that I can understand, but me personally, I would just never do that. I know it's kind of cringe to be oh, me personally, but it's just, if I was in their position, I couldn't imagine making the decisions that they did. It just comes down to understanding it, but also I feel in a lot of cases they're just giving into emotion or impulse or that kind of thing, which everyone has emotions and everyone can understand being emotional at times. But I think one big part of being someone that is worth respecting is having control over those emotions and being capable of rising above them, because everyone on earth feels hurt and everyone on earth feels anger and pain and all of that. That happens to everyone on earth. But with that being said, someone that undergoes any sort of trial or turbulation, they are probably going to be feeling hurt or angry or any of the above, you know? But with that being said, you can still dislike the person if they go about it in a negative way. I speak in very vague terms. Let me give an example. So let's say someone is robbed. They're robbed. They go wherever. They go to a big city. They get their ass robbed. They get their shoes stolen and then slapped in the face and called a punk. To some people that this would happen to, they would, dude, if this was at the wrong moment in their life, they would snap. they would actually just like become a robber themselves or something, or a murderer to get back at the world for taking something from them. And this is an extreme case, but I don't want to I don't want to like list something that's actually extremely serious, because it's not that serious. But let's say someone gets robbed. Jim Bob gets robbed, and a result of that is Jim Bob sees the world through a completely different lens. He sees it through the lens of, if people can take things from me without asking, why shouldn't I be able to take from them? And Jim Bob proceeds to become a serial killer because he wants to take the life that was stolen from him when his $20 was fucking taken away. And naturally, most people would probably think that's pretty unreasonable. Most people would be like, hey man, you know, just because one bad thing happens doesn't mean you have to take it out on the world. And I feel like that's where the respect comes in, where, yeah, it sucks you got robbed, bro. Like, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, but I still think you're a shitty person if you proceed to rob and do the same shit to other people, despite the experiences that you've had. I feel like people are a lot more in control of their own lives than they like to believe. I think that a lot of people like to kind of just default and say like, oh, well, this shit happened to me, like, of course I can do it to other people or whatever else. They don't really think about what they're doing and why. They just think like, well, this is the way things are. And it's a product of being in a certain kind of environment. That's true for everyone. That happens to everyone. But in my opinion, what's worth respecting in people is when they choose to be above that, when they choose to rise above that and be something other than what they've been conditioned to be. Because like, it's really easy to just go along and be whatever you're conditioned to be. It's really easy to let the world jade you and make you someone that is aggressive, angry, hurtful, insensitive. It's really easy to let all that shit get to you if you've had bad experiences. That doesn't take strength. Going through that kind of thing and coming out as a bad person doesn't take strength. That's the easy way out. That's not something that should be commended. Going through something like that alone isn't deserving of respect, in my opinion. I think choosing to be better and choosing to do better afterwards is what is deserving of that respect. Anyone that goes through hardships and wants to make the world better instead of worse is someone that I feel is worth commending and worth admiring or respecting. Because what we are, who we are, is entirely ultimately up in our own brains. That we just are our thoughts. That's who we are. And how we act, what we do, is how others perceive us. So you can have like the worst upbringing in the world and still be an amazing person. I have so much respect for that. Comparatively, you can have an awful upbringing and you can turn out to be an awful person, and yet a lot of people will still give you respect and give you leeway for your past. But my question is, if other people can go through hardships and come out to be better, then why can't you? Like, why couldn't someone that went through just as bad or worse than someone else, just why were they capable of it and that other person wasn't? I think it ultimately comes down to nature, because we're all a combination of nature versus nurture. That's like a given. And I think that, generally speaking, nurture plays a really big role. Like, for me personally, I know I wouldn't be the person I am without some of the things that I've gone through in the past. But your nature and how you choose to adapt to those things is ultimately the person you become. Like, if I had a different nature and I had bad things happen to me, I could be a very angry and bitter person. And the same applies to anyone that's gone through worse things. Some people come out really great and others don't. And I think the difference is just nature. and what they prioritize, what they value in life. And there's always limits, of course, because like someone that's literally being brainwashed and indoctrinated, it's gonna be much harder for them to come out on top compared to someone that just has like, I don't know, their dog dies or something. Don't get me wrong, that's still really sad and traumatic for a lot of people, but I think most will agree it's generally easier to not let that severely warp your worldview compared to being in a cult or something. But even still, like, you hear all the time stories of like North Korean defectors or anything else, someone that's been conditioned their whole life to be a certain kind of way, and they still come out different. They're still different. They still think differently. And I think that's so admirable. I think that is so respectable, because that shows the strength of their character and their will. Someone with a weak character is very easily influenced by the things around them. And like I said, this happens to everyone. Like everyone is influenced by their surroundings. But I think it's the people that choose to think for themselves and choose to base their morality on their own values that are really worth commending. But yeah, that's just kind of a little rant I had, and I hope you guys if any one person watches this, hey, what's up, thank you. If you have a differing opinion or you have anything else to add, please let me know. Do anything. I love hearing new perspectives and what people have to say. So thanks for watching, and if you have any sort of like like any feedback or whatever, let me know. Anything. Thank you.